Book summary of While Time Remains. The North Korean Defector's Search for Freedom in America by Yeonmi Park. And While Time Remains, Yeonmi Park, North Korean defector activist and author, shares her remarkable journey from the totalitarian dictatorship of North Korea to the democratic freedoms of the United States. However, as she navigates life in America, she makes startling realization. The suppression of speech, ideological conformity, self-censorship she thought she had left behind in North Korea are emerging in new and troubling forms in the West. Through her personal experiences, sharp observations, and deep concerns about the future of liberty, Park warns readers about the fragility of freedom and the necessity of protecting it. Escape from North Korea. A fight for survival. Yeonmi Park was born in 1993 in Hyesan, a city on North Korea's northern border with China. From an early age, she was conditioned to revere the ruling Kim dynasty. Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and later Kim Jong-un. As gods, the North Korean regime controlled every aspect of citizens' lives, from what they could say to what they could think. Dissent, even in private, could result in imprisonment or execution. Starvation was rampant, and ordinary citizens struggled to survive while the ruling elite enjoyed luxurious lives. When Park's father was arrested and sent to labor camp for engaging in black market trading to support his family, their lives became even more difficult. Facing extreme hunger and political persecution, Yeonmi, her mother, and her sister decided to flee to China in 2007. Their escape was perilous. At just 13 years old, Park endured the horrors of human trafficking, exploitation, and constant fear of being sent back to North Korea. She and her mother were deceived and sold into sexual slavery, a common fate for many North Korean defectors in China. Eventually, they found a path to freedom through Christian missionaries who helped smuggle them into Mongolia, where they sought asylum and were later granted passage to Korea. Adjusting to freedom in South Korea, Park's arrival in South Korea was not the end of her struggles. Although she was now in democracy, adjusting to life outside North Korea was difficult. She had to unlearn years of propaganda and develop critical thinking skills. She pursued her education and became a vocal advocate for human rights, speaking about the suffering of North Koreans. Her activism gained global attention, particularly after her 2014 speech at the One Young World Summit, where she delivered an emotional account of her escape. She later wrote her first book, In Order to Live, which provided a deeply personal narrative of her journey. Coming to America. A new challenge. In 2016, Park moved to the United States, believing she would find the ultimate freedom she had always dreamed of. However, to her surprise, she encountered a different kind of ideological control. One that was not enforced by government, but rather by cultural forces. While attending Columbia University, one of the most prestigious institutions in the country, Park expected an environment of intellectual openness and rigorous debate. Instead, she found an atmosphere where free speech was stifled by political correctness, identity politics, and a fear of offending others. She was shocked to see students and professors unwilling to question dominant narratives or challenge prevailing ideologies. She quickly realized the same kind of indoctrination she had experienced in North Korea was at play in American universities, though in different form. Instead of being forced to worship dictators, students were expected to adhere to rigid ideological beliefs. Those who dared to express differing opinions were silenced, ostracized, or labeled as oppressors. The dangers of ideological conformity. Park draws disturbing parallels between her experiences in North Korea and the trends she sees in America. While the United States does not have the totalitarian regime like North Korea, she argues that many Americans, especially young people, are willingly giving up their freedom by embracing ideological conformity. In North Korea, people live in fear of being reported to the authorities for saying wrong thing. In America, Park observes that individuals self-censor to avoid being canceled by their peers. In both societies, dissent is discouraged, and those who challenge the dominant ideology are punished. She criticizes the rise of identity politics, which she believes divides people into groups based on race, gender, and privilege rather than focusing on individual merit and shared human values. Instead of working toward unity and progress, she argues that identity politics fosters resentment and tribalism. The fragility of freedom. One of Park's central messages in While Time Remains is that freedom is not guaranteed. It must actively protected. Having lived in one of the most repressive regimes on earth, she understands firsthand how fragile liberty is. Many Americans, she warns, take their freedoms for granted and do not recognize the warning signs of authoritarianism creeping into their society. She urges readers to reject self-censorship, challenge prevailing narratives, and defend the principles of free speech, open debate, and critical thinking. She emphasizes that true diversity is not just about race or gender, but about differences in thought and perspective. Criticism of American institutions and media. Park does not shy away from critiquing American institutions, particularly academia, the media, and political movements that she believes are undermining individual freedoms. She is particularly critical of elite universities, which she says promote ideological homogeneity rather than independent thought. She also warns against the influence of media and social media platforms in shaping public opinion and controlling discourse. In North Korea, the government tightly controls all information, ensuring that citizens only hear what the regime wants them to hear. In America, Park argues tech companies and mainstream media outlets engage in their own form of information control by censoring dissenting voices and amplifying only one side. For the debate, a call to action despite her criticisms, Park remains hopeful. She believes that America is still a beacon of freedom, but warns that it is at a crossroads. If citizens do not stand up for their rights, they risk losing them. She encourages readers to be vigilant, to challenge ideological conformity, and to appreciate the liberties they have before it is too late. She also emphasizes the importance of continuing to fight for North Korea human rights. While much of the world focuses on other global issues, millions of North Koreans remain trapped in a brutal dictatorship, unable to speak out or seek freedom. Park urges people not to forget their plight and to support efforts to bring awareness to their suffering. Conclusion. While Time Remains is a powerful and thought-provoking book that challenges readers to reflect on the state of freedom in the modern world, Yeonmi Park's journey from North Korea to America provides her with unique perspective on the dangers of authoritarianism, whether it comes from dictatorship or from cultural pressures that suppress free speech. Through her personal story, she highlights the importance of intellectual freedom, critical thinking, and the courage to speak out against ideological conformity. Her message is clear: freedom must be defended or it will be lost. As an outspoken advocate for human rights, Park's book serves as both warning and an inspiration. It reminds readers that liberty is precious and that it is up to each generation to protect it. While Time Remains.